Everybody. I'm Laurel Lemke, and a lot of people know me because of the work I did at Western State Hospital. I was there for 27 years, and during that time, I was various roles, including some advocacy roles, and that's where I first became a RAP facilitator and worked on RAP. But um, and I've been retired the last 6 years. During that time, I did go back to work for Peer Washington, where I was doing the Washington Listens, where we were answering phone calls for people during COVID. And I also do training for different organizations. And uh, so I actually this week I had 8 jobs, 7 are from home, and one I actually went to Seattle. So I get around that way. And I think one of the things is people ask me, what aren't you retired? And part of it is when you're a peer, it's your life work, and you have to keep, and you don't just dissociate. So I know many peers that have been active in retirement, such as John Murphy, um, and Beverly Miller. After they retired from their other jobs, they kept active in peer roles. So I'm glad that people are here, and I want this to be interactive today. I think I first started thinking or using wellness tools after my first psychiatric episode, and I had gone into the hospital in a manic state. And when I came out, I was in a very depressed state, and it was hard to do anything. And at that time, I didn't know that what I was doing was wellness tools. But what really helped me was that when I went home to my family, and my mother and I played a game of Scrabble every day. And I would look forward to playing a game of Scrabble. So that was the first wellness tool. And I can say the later on, I found out like through the RAP that wellness tools, how they define wellness tools, are that they're activities you can do that make you feel well, help you stay well. I can just read a little bit from this. It says the first for them, they suggest having a list of tools that you can go to, and that they help you stay well and make you feel good are your wellness tools. There are things that you can do to feel better when you're not doing well, and things you can do now, or things that you've done in the past, things you've heard about, things you may want to try. I think for me, kind of my go-to thing is Netflix, but there are things to do besides Netflix, and some of them are actually healthier for me. I think the other thing, so early on, is like I had my first episode before the Depression Bipolar Support Alliance had started. I have but we had kind of an outpatient group from the hospital I'd been at, and they would get together once a month. And so going back and meeting with other people in kind of a support group was very helpful for me. And that was a wellness tool. I was very active in NAMI for quite a while, and those groups were helpful for me, and as well as there's connection support group. Okay. The next thing I listed for myself as a wellness tool is live music, being around live music. And that was the hardest part of COVID for me, and I did know, some bands I know they would like get together and perform together. But I always feel better after I've heard some live music. And I remember one thing during COVID is there was a group that played under the porch in our church, and we sat in the parking lot so that we could hear live music. But I think for myself, I set a goal to hear live music at least once every 2 weeks. One of the things I like to do is go to a vision board workshop and have vision boards. And so this was one that I did with a NAMI group, and I had actually done this at the time So I have kidney failure, and I'm on dialysis. I'm wanting to go to have a kidney transplant. I needed to lose some weight. So these were things that were like kind of helping me focus on losing the weight. And they included, and the one thing that was kind of neat is this was a green background, and then they had like wallpaper you could tear and put in the corners. And they had stickers. So I've got faith over fear, believe in your future self. Um, this was nice. This is a butterfly. It says become the change. Um, and there was actually somebody lifting weights and said, believe you can do. You got to nourish to flourish. Uh, it says believe. But anyway, some really good things that I haven't read this lately. The good news is I did achieve the weight loss I needed. So here we actually had this is a palette board here, and like we put gesso over it, and then I cut things out of magazines, and I it's your concern for good health will be rewarded. Says thrive, 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 thrive. And it's actually the thing that's kind of funny for me is I'm kind of sensitive to being an older adult and supporting older adults. We're going through all these magazines, and there are no pictures of older adults, you know? So I didn't have pictures of older adults to put on there. But I also said, living is curiouser and curiouser, and celebrate community and tons of support and speaking, because you know, I like to talk. And I just like that where it says happy full, and look what, you know, another butterfly showed up on this one. So, well, I think the other thing, a big thing for me has been volunteering, and it's throughout my life doing some volunteer work. And I think I started in, high school by helping with uh, uh, we had a service organization, and so during the football games we would sell the refreshments. And I have to say that sometimes my volunteer work is kind of mercenary because I get a lot out of it, and one of those things is volunteering. And there are various theaters in Seattle and Tacoma that I volunteered at, and as you usher, you get to see the show for free. I've also so I've really enjoyed that. I'm part of this program. It's called the Alternatives to Violence Program, or AVP. And how I first heard about it is there was a program built on it that was like next steps for peer supporters, and it's an advanced training that can be done. And they originally had this advanced training with all these PowerPoints, and people, that's overwhelming, the PowerPoint. So it's more like hands-on activities that people are doing. So the Alternatives to Violence program developed 50 years ago after these riots that had happened at at hospitals, at state prisons, and they had moved these people to different prisons. And the one volunteer, that group that came in were the Friends, which are, the Quakers would come in, and they work with them to develop like a 3-day workshop where people are doing a variety of activities that are both interactive and fun. So they go between doing kind of serious discussion things and doing fun game activities. So after I'd gone through that experience, I had the chance to go up to Monroe and do the different levels of training so I could be a facilitator. I was going to be facilitated in Monroe, and then COVID happened. But the good thing is we're now doing them in, we do like a 1-day workshop or 2-day workshops for alternative schools in the Burien area, Highline Burien area. And it really helps people get bonded together. I know there's going to be one at Peer Kent, like a 2-day workshop or 2 or 3-day workshop coming up. I'm done with Peer Kent. but I've mainly done them as a volunteer, but sometimes we get grants to do them. And, particularly, I think we're also thinking, they've looked for grants for doing it related to gun violence. But those are really good activities. And then in some ways we've learned how to do things online too. We all got creative during COVID about doing things online. And, I may talk more one time, kind of shameless plug about the Grave Concerns Association, which is the nonprofit that I helped found in 2000. And it's about the cemetery at Western State Hospital. It's across the street now in the park, where over 3,200 people were buried with numbers instead of names. And we have put in over 2,000 markers so far. But what we're working on is, and so part of what I've learned through this volunteer work is it getting grants and achieving grants. So we got a grant last July that's going to pay for the rest of the markers. However, we still are working on getting the paperwork done. It's just been amazing. So we have and I can show it later. We've got some videos about what we've done, and I kind of and so we can come back and talk about more wellness tools because I think we just scratched the surface.